With our packs filled light and our spirits high, we flew into Dublin, Ireland. After a short bus transfer to the Houston train station and a 2.5-hour ride into Killarney, we arrived at our starting point for the Kerry Way. Killarney is a cute, quaint town, perfect for getting acclimated and doing final preparations. With the prospects of a scatterbean weather pattern, we were prepared with waterproof shoes, ponchos, rain pants, and of course rain jackets. And after a day of rest and relaxation in Killarney, we were ready to get started. The first few kilometers begin as an urban walk before giving way to the Killarney National Park. In regards to trekking poles, we decided to bring them. What we did is we went ahead and packed them into a bag that we checked through to Dublin. We weren't sure of what the airline's rules and regulations were, but we were very glad that we brought the trekking poles. Even though the trek goes over country roads and farmland, there were plenty of rocky spots up and down in which the trekking poles were helpful. Country. One of the astounding things that we learned in Ireland is that the rhododendron is considered an invasive species, and they're taking active measures to eradicate it from the island. There are three primary ways to hike the Kerry Way. There's what the Europeans call wild camping, in which you carry your sleeping bag in your tent and camp outside. The second way is backpacking, in which you carry everything except your sleeping gear from town to town. And then there's what's called slack packing, in which a service will carry your luggage from one town to the next, and all you have to do is carry your needs for the day. Torque Waterfalls is generally the end of the touristy areas. From here, day trekkers do use this trailhead to reach the higher hills of Killarney National Park.
The Irish salute.
After approximately 15 kilometers, you reach this intersection at an area called Derrick Cunninghy. From here, the Kerry Way loop begins. Most hikers, including us, go to the right towards Black Valley. At the end of the hike, you'll come back to this intersection from Kenmare and then make your way back to Killarney to complete the Kerry Way loop. If I don't move, they won't see me.
Black Valley Hostel.
At last, we arrived at the Black Valley. For us, we stayed
This is
at the
where
Black
hikers come
Valley
to summit.
Hostel. As of 2026, the Black Valley Hostel was going through a transition.
Right?
The bunk-style hostel was closed for this season, but they had these multi-person rooms available for rent. In addition, they offered dinner service, breakfast service, and packed lunches for takeaway the following morning. The service was first rate, and we really enjoyed this stay.
Can we adjust it?
I can adjust it from my side.
Just a little
To
bit.
top it up. Yeah, no
Yeah.
problem at all.
I mean, it will probably be fine, but having cooled down.
I know,
think-
after the shower then you get a little bit chilly, but yeah, it'll be
Yeah.
nice and warm when you
Yeah.
work back down. So have a seat and I'll be right back to you.
I'm trying to get my gloves, man.
Under cloudy, drizzly skies, we begin day 2.
Trying to lighten your pack.
Black Valley's a little gray today. Stallions? No.
In regards to groceries,
Irish stallions.
there's nothing in Black Valley and frankly not much to speak of in Glen Carr. So if you do plan to carry your food, I would suggest carrying from Killarney all the way to Glen Bay over the first 3 legs.
Oh, I didn't
Day 2 introduces you to the fact that you're going to be going through many gates and many fence ladders. A reminder that you will be walking on a lot of private property, and it's really important to make sure you respect that because they do have their livestock, which is their livelihood.
You just feel like you could slip.
I know. Well, and I figured my pack would get caught on it. I think I would. Drink mine.
Hey, Okay, I'm carrying one of your bottles.
From a pure hiking standpoint, this is one of my favorite days along the Kerry Way. You have isolation, natural beauty, and you go up and over two passes. The first one between the Black Valley and the Bridia Valley, and then the quite steep pass up and over the Lac Road Pass. If steep alpine climbing is not your cup of tea, there is an alternative to stay along the country road. It's about 5 kilometers longer, but it is flat and will take you less time. And the reward for the steep climb is when you reach the summit is spectacular views. Having descended the Lac Road summit, you reach the western point of Loch Acus. At this point, there are two ways to get to Glencar. We took the flatter, slightly longer route around the lake. A couple of German hikers that we had met on this leg had taken the other route. They did confirm that it is quite boggy, and it took us about the same time to get to the same destination. And that destination was the Climbers Inn in Glencar. The Climbers Inn is a nice little oasis along the Kerry Way. They provide comfortable rooms and very good dinners and breakfasts. It does have a small store if you do need a few resupplies. Day 3. This began as a cloudy, windy day. It quickly became the coldest day for us on our trek as the rain showers picked up on our march to Glen Bay. We didn't keep an actual tally, but we probably climbed close to 100 of these stiles. We did not see a lot of wildlife along the Kerry Way. A few deer, some rabbits, and a whole lot of seabirds. By now you've seen that the pathway is mainly dirt and rocks such as this, and also a lot of country roads and very few boggy spots along the way.
Well, we're up at Windy Gap, or what we thought was Windy Gap, but based on the wind, maybe it's actually Windy Gap.
As we cross over Windy Gap, we get our first glance of the more famous Dingle Peninsula across the Dingle Bay. This is just a beautiful valley that leads down to the town of Glen Bay. If you find yourself in need of having to do laundry, look for these Wash Me kiosks. There are a few along the Kerry Way.
Day 4.
Day 4 began as a cloudy, drizzly day and ended as a surprisingly long day. On any given day on the Kerry Way, you will be putting on layers and taking off layers. If you used a guidebook to plan your trip, which we did, and your guidebook says that it's 20 kilometers from Glen Bay to Car Sabine, just know that that 20 kilometers ends right here at the Foilmore Athletic Club. If you're staying in Carsavine, it's 6 kilometers down this road, or if you stay on the proper Kerry Way, it's another 14-kilometer hike to get into Carsavine. As for the proper Kerry Way route into Carsavine, it meanders aimlessly, and frankly, it's not worth the effort. In talking to a couple of the locals in the evening, they acknowledged that some of the guidebooks are incorrect on their distances from Glencar to Carsavine. Their advice is to take a taxi out to the Foilmore Athletic Club, which is exactly what we did the following day. If you do make the entire 34-kilometer trek into Carsavine, we highly recommend going to the Oratory Pizza and Wine restaurant inside this old church. Feeling abused from the previous day's trek, we began the day under cloudy skies, windy conditions at the Foilmore Athletic Club. And despite being a whiny wanker at this point, we were enjoying every step of the way. This ridge hike up to Nakavon offers panoramic views and 50 shades of green. Descending Nakavon Mountain, we see down the Inny Valley, and in the distance, Waterville starts coming into view. After the final 6 miles of road walk, we arrived at Coyotes, a friendly and inviting bed and breakfast on the outskirts of Waterville. Day 6. It's windy and sunny as we make our way from Waterville to Car Daniel, taking the coastal route. This became one of our favorite days as the weather and the scenery were spectacular. Some of the panoramic highlights of this day included this ancient fort and the distant Skellig Islands. Crossing over the Kumakitsa Pass The stunning scenery also brings into view the distant Bira Peninsula. Having passed through the Darien National Historic Park and the Car Daniel Fort, reinforced with rubber tires, we arrived at the Blind Piper in Car Daniel for an afternoon supper. Day 7, and it rained on us on our celestial walk from Car Daniel to Sneem. For planning your food, just know that there is no grocery in Car Daniel and just the one pub, the Blind Piper. The food's excellent there, but it is the only choice. So you may want to plan on carrying food from Waterville to Sneem to tide you over. Most hiking videos don't show the rain because they don't want to risk their gear getting wet. So here you go, the rare event of rain being captured on film in Ireland. As for this being a celestial walk, there is a map that replicates the solar system and the distances between the planets and ends at the scientific proof that Pluto is indeed a planet. Sneem is a welcoming tourist town that has everything you need. Including a place to be pampered after a wet, sloggy day. Day 8, and the Skerveen unleashes another round of heavy rain and cold wind on what will end up being our last day on trail. Having learned to double check our guidebook the night before each leg, we realized that we actually had 34 kilometers to our next destination. So seeing the weather forecast and experiencing the degradation of the weather, we moved on to a plan B. So we slogged our way through the mud and the animal muck for the town of Temple Mill, where we were going to catch a bus to complete the loop to Kenmare. A decision that was affirmed by a couple hiking the opposite direction that said the trail just got worse. We finished off the last kilometers. We had time to reflect upon the hike. I think I'm glad that it was perfectly imperfect. In fact, I think this was my favorite way to see Ireland.
Slaunch.
Solange. Solange.